Sergeant, you don't belong in tactical discussions. Remove that uniform before I rip it off myself. The words cut through the morning air like a blade. 8 o'clock, Navy SEAL training yard, California sun already climbing hot over the obstacle course. 43 personnel stood frozen. Operators in desert camo, technicians clutching clipboards, trainees mid-stretch. Every eye turned toward the center of the yard where Major Cole Vance stood, arms crossed, jaw set like granite. His target? A woman in standard fatigues, sergeant stripes faded from years of wear, standing alone near the comms equipment table. Sergeant Luisa Torres didn't flinch. She stood with her weight balanced, hands loose at her sides, eyes forward, not defiant, not submissive, just still. The kind of stillness that comes from training so deep it rewrites your nervous system. Her chest rose and fell in a rhythm too controlled to be natural. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out. Combat breathing. The kind you learn when panic means death. Cole took 3 steps closer. His boots crunched gravel. Did you hear me, Sergeant, or do I need to use smaller words? Laughter rippled through the crowd, nervous, uncertain. A few SEALs exchanged glances. One trainee elbowed another, grinning. This was entertainment. A show. Cole Vance, the man who'd survived Yemen and come back with a chest full of ribbons, putting some nobody tech in her place. Louisa's right hand moved, just an inch. Her fingers brushed the pocket of her cargo pants, touched something inside. A coin. Old, worn smooth at the edges. She didn't pull it out, just touched it, the way you'd touch a talisman. Then her hand returned to her side. Major Vance. Her voice came out level, quiet, not loud enough to carry past the first row of onlookers. With respect, I was reviewing the frequency allocations for GCSAGC. I don't care about frequencies. Cole cut her off. He was close now, close enough that she had to tilt her head back slightly to meet his eyes. I care about chain of command. I care about people knowing their place. And right now, you're in mine. Behind him, near the equipment racks, an older man watched. Master Chief Rourke, 62 years old, 38 years in the teams, face like weathered leather. He'd been adjusting a repelling harness when the confrontation started. Now his hands had gone still. His eyes narrowed as he studied Louisa. The way she stood, the rhythm of her breathing, the subtle tension in her shoulders that wasn't fear. It was restraint. Rourke had seen that posture before. He just couldn't remember where. Cole raised his voice, playing to the crowd now. You know what I think, Sergeant? I think you've been coasting, hiding behind technical jargon and equipment nobody else understands, pretending you're valuable. He turned, gestured to the assembled personnel. But when it comes down to it, when rounds are flying and brothers are bleeding, what good is someone who can't pull their weight? Louisa's jaw tightened, just a fraction, then released. She reached into her other pocket, slow, deliberate, pulled out a cassette tape. Ancient technology, the kind nobody used anymore. The plastic case was scuffed, the label handwritten in faded ink. Class 0, audio only. She set it on the equipment table between them. The click of plastic on metal seemed impossibly loud. Cole stared at it. What's that supposed to be, your resignation? No, sir. Louisa's voice stayed flat. Just something I thought you might want to hear. Eventually, she turned, started walking toward the edge of the yard. Not running, not rushing, just walking, each step measured, her spine straight as a rifle barrel. I didn't dismiss you, Sergeant. Cole's shout followed her. You walk away from me, that's insubordination, you hear me? That's a charge. Louisa kept walking. The crowd parted. Faces blurred past. Some smirking, some confused, a few uncomfortable. She reached the perimeter fence, stopped with her back to everyone, and began retaping her left wrist. The medical wrap had come loose during equipment setup that morning. As she unwound it, sunlight caught something on her inner forearm, a pale line, old scar tissue, the kind left by burns. She covered it quickly, wound the tape tight, didn't look back. Rourke watched her hands. The way she wrapped, spiral technique, anchor point at the pulse, exactly 3 overlapping layers. Military medical training, not civilian first aid, not something you learned from YouTube. He took a step forward, then stopped. Something in his memory scratched at the surface like a dog at a door. That breathing pattern, that grip technique. He'd seen them before years ago, the thought slipped away before he could grab it. Cole snatched the cassette tape from the table, turned it over in his hands. Class 0, he read aloud, mocking. What's that, some kind of community college program? More laughter. He tossed the tape back onto the table like trash. All right, show's over. Obstacle course in 15. Anyone who can't hang with the pace can join the sergeant in whatever hole she crawls into. The crowd dispersed. Conversations resumed. The morning schedule reasserted itself. But Lieutenant Nash, newly assigned, 3 weeks on base, stayed near the equipment table. He was 30 years old, formerly Army intelligence before transferring to Naval Special Warfare. He'd learned to notice things others missed, and right now he was noticing that cassette tape. He picked it up when no one was looking, turned it over. The label had more than just Class 0 written on it. There was a date, 8 years ago, and a location code. Grid coordinates. And at the bottom, almost too faded to read, Protocol 47. Nash knew protocols. He'd memorized half the Special Operations Manual during his transfer training, but Protocol 47 wasn't in any manual he'd seen. He slipped the tape into his pocket and made a mental note to run those coordinates through the classified database later. Across the yard, Louisa stood alone by the fence. She'd finished wrapping her wrist. Now she was staring at the obstacle course, the rope climb, the wall, the tire run, the crawl section. She wasn't worried about completing it. She was calculating angles, distance, optimal grip points. Her lips moved slightly, running through the course in her mind before her body ever touched it. Old habit, the kind you develop when failure means people die. A voice crackled from the radio clipped to her belt. All personnel briefing in 5, command center main floor. She unclipped the radio, adjusted the squelch, checked the frequency, 2.3 hertz off optimal. She turned the dial, 3 clicks, precise, and the static cleared. The voice came through crystal sharp now. She clipped it back to her belt. Rourke had been watching. He saw the adjustment, saw the way she'd done it without looking, muscle memory, fingers knowing exactly which direction and how far to turn. That wasn't standard training. That was specialist level, comms expert. The kind of person who could run an entire operations radio net blindfolded. He walked over. Louisa heard him coming. Boots on gravel, measured pace, the gait of someone who'd been running ops longer than she'd been alive. She didn't turn. "Sergeant Torres?" Rourke's voice carried a southern drawl worn smooth by decades. "Mind if I ask you something?" "Master Chief." She faced him, met his eyes, waited. "That breathing pattern," he gestured vaguely toward her chest. 4-4-4, that's box breathing. Sniper technique. Tactical applications. Not something they teach in basic comms training. Louise's expression didn't change. "I read a book once, Master Chief." "Uh-huh." Rourke wasn't buying it, but he didn't push. Not yet. "And that radio adjustment just now. You corrected frequency drift without checking the display. That takes either a lot of practice or a very good ear." "Both, Master Chief." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Just one more thing. When Major Vance got in your face back there, you didn't step back, didn't flinch, you centered your weight and measured distance. That's combatives training, defensive posture, you were ready for contact." "I was ready to leave, Master Chief." "Maybe." Rourke's eyes narrowed. "But if he'd touched you, you had a plan. I could see it." He paused. "Who trained you, Sergeant?" For the first time, something flickered across Louise's face. Not fear, not anger, something deeper. Memory, maybe, or grief. It passed so quickly Rourke almost missed it. "Someone who believed competence matters more than volume, Master Chief." She walked away before he could respond, headed toward the command center for briefing, her stride even and unhurried. Rourke watched her go, that scratching feeling in his memory getting stronger. He'd heard that phrasing before. Competence over volume. It was a motto, an old one, from a training program that technically didn't exist. He pulled out his phone, opened a secure message app, and typed a query to an old friend in personnel records. "Class 0, Protocol 47, ring any bells?" The response came back 3 minutes later. "You don't have clearance for that anymore, neither do I. Why are you asking?" Rourke typed, "Just a hunch." The reply, "Let it go, Master Chief. That program was buried for a reason." He pocketed the phone, didn't let it go. Inside the command center, 60 personnel packed into a briefing room designed for 40. The air conditioning fought a losing battle against body heat and California morning sun streaming through high windows. Cole stood at the front near a projection screen, arms crossed, radiating authority. Colonel Hayes sat to his left, 55 years old, silver hair cropped military short, expression unreadable. Louisa found a spot in the back corner. She didn't sit, just stood with her shoulders against the wall, hands clasped in front, eyes forward. A few people glanced her way. Whispers, smirks. The woman who'd gotten dressed down in front of everyone. The one who didn't belong. Cole began the briefing. Standard morning rundown, training objectives, safety protocols, schedule changes. His voice carried confidence, authority, the tone of someone used to being obeyed. He covered equipment checks, range allocations, team assignments. Then he got to personnel. One more thing. Cole's eyes found Louisa in the back. We've had concerns raised about qualification standards, specifically whether certain individuals meet the physical and tactical requirements to be embedded with operational teams. The room shifted. People turned to look. Louisa didn't move. So today we're running a full evaluation, Cole smiled, sharp. Obstacle course, timed. Anyone who wants to wear this uniform and work with this unit needs to prove they can hang. That includes technical personnel. That includes everyone. No exceptions. Nash, seated 3 rows ahead, glanced back at Louisa. Her face remained still as stone. Colonel Hayes leaned forward. Major Vance, the obstacle course isn't a requirement for communications specialists. With respect, Colonel, maybe it should be. Cole gestured broadly. We deploy as a unit. Everyone needs to be capable. What happens if our comms tech is with us in the field and we need to move fast? Are we supposed to carry dead weight? Sergeant Torres has never been dead weight in 6 years of deployments, Major. Then she'll have no problem proving it, sir. Hayes's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Fine. Standard course, standard time. Sergeant Torres, you're cleared to participate if you choose. All eyes turned to Louisa. The room held its breath. She could refuse. She could cite regulations. She could push back. Instead, she spoke. Calm, quiet, just 5 words. 0830. I'll be ready. Cole's smile widened. Outstanding. Let's see what you've got, Sergeant. The briefing ended. Personnel filed out. Louisa waited until the room emptied, then approached Hayes. The colonel was gathering papers, his movements sharp with suppressed frustration. Sir, permission to speak freely. Hayes looked up. Go ahead, Sergeant. This isn't about qualification standards. He's trying to push me out. I know. Hayes set down his papers. But my hands are tied. Major Vance has command discretion over training protocols. Unless he crosses a legal line, I can't override him without cause. He paused. Can you pass the course? Yes, sir. How confident? Very, sir. Hayes studied her. There's something you're not telling me, Sergeant. I've read your file. 6 years, multiple deployments, exemplary record. Commendations from 3 different commanding officers. But before that, there's a gap. 2 years where your record is classified above my clearance level. What were you doing? Louisa met his eyes. I'm not authorized to discuss that, sir. Even if it's relevant to this situation? Even then, sir, Hayes sighed. All right. But Sergeant, if Vance is targeting you because of something personal, something beyond professional conduct, I need to know. I can't protect you if I'm operating blind. Understood, sir, but I don't need protection. I need the system to work the way it's supposed to. And if it doesn't, then we'll know what kind of system we have, sir. She left before he could respond. Walked through the corridors, past storage rooms and offices, out into the equipment yard. Rourke was there, checking harnesses. He looked up as she approached. You're really going to run that course? Yes, Master Chief. In front of everyone, with Vance looking for any excuse to disqualify you. Yes, Master Chief. Rourke set down the harness. I'll be watching, and I'll be paying attention to more than just your time. He lowered his voice. I don't know who you are, Sergeant. Not really. But I know you're not what you're pretending to be. And whatever game Vance is playing, he doesn't realize he's already lost. Louisa tilted her head slightly. Why do you say that, Master Chief? Because you're not scared. You're patient. And in my experience, patience wins more fights than aggression ever will. She almost smiled. Almost. Thank you, Master Chief. Don't thank me yet. Just don't make me look stupid for believing in you. I'll do my best, Master Chief. 8:30 arrived fast. The obstacle course sprawled across 200 meters of California dirt and steel. Rope climb, 8-foot wall, tire run through mud, low crawl under barbed wire, balance beam, final sprint. Standard SEAL training, designed to break bodies and spirits in equal measure. A crowd gathered. 40, 50 people. Some curious, some eager to watch a spectacle. Cole stood at the finish line, stopwatch in hand, grin on his face. Louisa stretched near the start. Not for show. Methodical. Each muscle group, precise duration, breathing controlled. She'd removed her jacket. Just t-shirt and cargo pants now, boots laced tight. The scar on her forearm caught sunlight again, visible when she reached overhead. A few people noticed. Nobody asked. Nash stood off to the side, observing. He'd pulled up those grid coordinates from the cassette tape during a bathroom break. Ran them through the database. The results had come back with a single word: redacted. Everything else locked behind clearance levels he didn't have. But the location was Yemen. 8 years ago. Right around the time of a major IED incident that had killed 6 operators and wounded a dozen more. He looked at Louisa, looked at Cole. Something didn't add up. If you've ever been underestimated, you know this feeling. The weight of eyes watching, waiting for you to fail. Hit that like button right now. Let's prove them wrong together. Sergeant Torres, ready? Cole's voice carried across the yard. Ready, sir. Standard time is 4 minutes 30. You've got 5. Fail any obstacle, you're disqualified. Safety violation, you're disqualified. Understood? Understood, sir. On my mark. Cole raised his hand. 3, 2, 1, go. Louisa exploded forward. Not reckless, controlled. Sprint to the rope climb, 20 feet of braided cord hanging from a steel frame. She grabbed it without slowing, feet finding purchase, arms pulling in rhythm with leg drive. Up in seconds. Tagged the top. Descended fast, hand under hand, hitting the ground in a crouch. The crowd murmured. That was fast. Too fast for someone who supposedly never trained for this. Wall next. 8 feet of solid wood. She hit it at speed, jumped, caught the top edge, pulled herself up and over in one fluid motion. Landed, rolled, back on her feet. 45 seconds, Cole shouted. He wasn't smiling anymore. Tire run, 20 tires half buried in mud, staggered pattern designed to twist ankles and steal balance. Louisa moved through them like water. Light on her feet, weight shifting, never fully committing until the landing was secure. No slips, no hesitation, low crawl. 30 meters under barbed wire, mud and gravel, elbows and knees. This was where people slowed down, where exhaustion crept in. Louisa stayed low, stayed smooth, breathing controlled even as dirt caked her uniform and sweat dripped into her eyes. 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Balance beam. 6-inch width, 15 feet long, 3 feet off the ground. She walked it like a sidewalk. Arms out, core engaged, eyes fixed on the far end. Halfway across, a gust of wind hit, strong enough to make the beam shake. She adjusted, barely, weight shifting to compensate. Didn't slow. Final sprint. 50 meters, dead run, finish line ahead. Cole stood there with his stopwatch, jaw tight. Louisa ran through the line, didn't stop until she'd cleared it by 10 feet. Then she bent forward, hands on knees, breathing hard but controlled. Still 444, still calm. Cole checked the stopwatch. His face went dark. 3 minutes, 52 seconds. Silence. Then someone started clapping. Rourke. Slow, deliberate applause. Others joined, tentative at first, then louder. Nash clapped. A few SEALs. Even some of the trainees who'd laughed earlier. Cole's voice cut through the applause. Hold on. Inspection. He walked the course backward, examining each obstacle, looking for mistakes, looking for violations. At the wall, he stopped, ran his hand along the top edge. Sergeant, come here. Louisa walked over, mud-covered, sweat-soaked, but standing straight. Cole pointed at the wall. You tagged this edge when you cleared it. That's required. But I'm seeing a scuff mark here that suggests your boot scraped the surface. That's a safety violation. Improper footwear contact can damage equipment. Nash stepped forward. Major, respectfully, every boot leaves scuff marks on that wall. We repaint it twice a month. And every violation needs to be called, Lieutenant. Cole turned to Hayes, who'd been watching from the sidelines. Colonel, I'm recommending disqualification based on equipment damage. Hayes walked over, examined the wall, looked at Cole. Major, I've seen 100 people run this course. That's a standard scuff, nothing more. Sir, the regulation clearly states, that deliberate or reckless damage disqualifies. Hayes's voice went hard. There was nothing deliberate or reckless about Sergeant Torres's performance. She passed. End of discussion. Cole's jaw worked. He looked at Louisa, eyes cold. You got lucky, Sergeant. That wind gust on the balance beam should have knocked you off. Louisa met his stare. Luck had nothing to do with it, sir. For just a moment, Cole's expression flickered. Confusion, suspicion, something else underneath. Then he turned away. Dismissed. The crowd dispersed. Louisa walked toward the equipment shed, peeling off her muddy gloves. Rourke intercepted her near the door. That wasn't just good, Sergeant. That was professional level. That was practiced. I trained, Master Chief. Where? Before I was assigned here. That's not an answer. Louisa pulled a bottle from the water cooler, drank long and deep. When she lowered it, her expression had shifted just slightly, more tired, more honest. Some things I can't talk about, Master Chief, not because I don't want to, because I'm not allowed. That gap in your file, Yes, Master Chief. Rourke nodded slowly. And Major Vance? He doesn't know what he doesn't know. But you do. Yes, Master Chief. And you're letting him dig his own hole. Louisa didn't answer. She set down the water bottle, grabbed a towel, started wiping mud from her arms. Rourke watched her for another moment, then walked away shaking his head. Whatever classified program she'd been part of, it had trained her far beyond standard. And whatever history existed between her and Vance, it was buried deep. But buried things had a way of surfacing, especially when you kept digging. That afternoon, the whispers started. Someone posted to the unit's group chat a photo of Louisa sleeping during a classified briefing 3 days earlier. The caption, "Our tactical expert hard at work." The photo showed her head tilted back, eyes closed, mouth slightly open. Within an hour, it had 50 reactions, laughing emojis, comments. Maybe she needs more sleep. How is she even still here? Vance was right. What the photo didn't show, the tiny earpiece in Louisa's left ear, flesh-colored, nearly invisible. The frequency monitor in her lap, hidden by the angle. She hadn't been sleeping. She'd been listening to an intercepted enemy transmission on a classified channel, eyes closed to focus on the audio, mouth open slightly to prevent ear pressure buildup during the extended monitoring session. But nobody checked. Nobody asked. They just saw what they wanted to see. Nash saw the post. He'd been in that briefing. He'd been seated 2 rows behind Louisa, and he'd seen her right hand moving, subtle, rhythmic, tapping Morse code on her thigh. She'd been transcribing the transmission in real time. He'd thought it was nervous fidgeting. Now he realized it was work. He sent a private message to Cole. "Sir, that photo is misleading. Sergeant Torres was monitoring a frequency during that briefing per protocol." Cole's response came back in seconds. "Lieutenant, I appreciate your input, but if she's tired enough to need to close her eyes, she's not fit for duty. Let it stand." Nash stared at his phone. Let it stand. Not investigate. Not verify. Just let the false narrative spread because it served a purpose. He thought about the cassette tape still in his pocket, about those redacted coordinates, about the way Louisa had moved through that obstacle course like someone who'd done it 1,000 times under worse conditions. He opened his laptop and started digging deeper. By evening, the photo had spread beyond the group chat. Someone printed it out, posted it on the bulletin board in the DFAC, dining facility, with the caption, "Employee of the Month." People laughed, pointed. Louisa walked past it without stopping. Got her dinner, grilled chicken, vegetables, water, sat alone at a corner table. Rourke sat down across from her, uninvited. "You know that photo is fabricated context, right?" "I know, Master Chief." "You going to correct it?" "No, Master Chief." "Why not?" Louisa cut her chicken into precise portions, took a bite, chewed slowly. "Because people believe what they want to believe. Correcting them won't change minds. It'll just make me look defensive. So you'll let them think you're incompetent, for now. That takes either incredible confidence or incredible stupidity, Sergeant." "Or a plan, Master Chief." Rourke leaned back. "You know what I think? I think you've been in this exact situation before. I think you know how it ends. And I think you're not worried because you've already won. You're just waiting for everyone else to figure it out." Louisa met his eyes. "I think you're giving me too much credit, Master Chief. Or not enough." Rourke stood. "But I'll tell you this. Whatever happens next, I'll be watching, and I'll remember." He left. Louisa finished her meal in silence, then walked back to her quarters, a small room in the enlisted barracks, sparse, clean. She sat on her bunk, pulled out the challenge coin from her pocket, held it to the light. The coin was old, worn. The insignia had faded, barely visible now, but she could still read it if she traced the edges with her fingertip. She did that now, muscle memory, a ritual. Then she placed it on her nightstand next to a photo, the only personal item in the room. The photo showed 12 people in desert camo, faces blurred for security, standing in front of a Humvee, location indeterminate, date unreadable. But in the bottom corner, barely visible, was a notation. Class 0, final evaluation. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she lay back on her bunk, closed her eyes, and began breathing, 444, preparing for whatever came next. Because something would come. Cole wasn't done. Men like him never were. They couldn't stand losing, even when they didn't realize they'd already lost. The next morning brought new escalation. During equipment check, Louisa's radio gear was flagged for inspection. Cole claimed someone had reported a potential security violation, unauthorized frequency access. He ordered her to surrender all personal communication devices for audit. Louisa complied without argument, handed over her radio, her backup unit, her frequency scanner, stood at attention while they were cataloged and locked in the security office. "You'll get these back when we've verified no breaches occurred," Cole told her in front of the assembled morning formation. "Until then, you're restricted from any communication duties, reassigned to general labor." General labor, the job they gave to people being punished. Cleaning equipment, organizing storage, menial tasks designed to humiliate. Louise's expression didn't change. "Yes, sir." "Any objections, Sergeant?" "No, sir." Cole seemed almost disappointed, like he'd expected her to fight, to give him a reason to escalate further. Instead, she just accepted it, turned, walked to the equipment shed to receive her new assignments. Nash watched from the formation, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. This was wrong, transparently wrong. But he was new here, low rank, no political capital to spend. If he spoke up now, Cole would crush him too. But he could investigate quietly. And he had been. Last night, he'd called in a favor from an old Army intelligence contact, asked about Class 0 and Protocol 47. His contact had gone quiet for a long time. Then, "Where did you hear those terms?" "Can't say, but I need to know what they mean." Another long pause. "I'll send you something, encrypted. Read it and delete it immediately. And Nash, don't mention this conversation to anyone. Some programs are buried for reasons that go beyond classification." The file had arrived at 0300 hours. Nash had read it in his locked quarters, phone screen brightness turned down, heart pounding harder with every line. Class 0, an experimental training program. 8 years ago. Objective: remove unconscious bias from tactical instruction by eliminating all identifiers. Instructors had no names, no faces, no ranks visible to students. They existed only as voices over radio during field exercises. Students learned from pure competence, divorced from prejudice about gender, age, appearance, or background. The program had trained 12 operators. 11 had gone on to distinguished careers. 1 had died in Yemen, IED explosion during an extraction. But the instructors' identities had remained classified. The program had been shut down after 2 years. Reason given: operational security concerns. Protocol 47 was the emergency authentication code. If a Class 0 instructor needed to verify their identity in the field, they could invoke Protocol 47 and provide specific proof that would authenticate them through channels separate from normal command. Nash had stared at that file for an hour. Then he'd deleted it as instructed. Now, watching Louisa walk toward the equipment shed with her head high despite the humiliation, he understood. She'd been one of those instructors, the voice on the radio. And somewhere in this base was someone she'd trained, someone who didn't know her face, only her voice. He needed to find that cassette tape, needed to hear what was on it. Louisa spent the day cleaning equipment, scrubbing mud off ropes, organizing tools, hauling water containers, work designed to be humiliating for someone with her experience. She did it without complaint, without visible frustration, just methodical, efficient completion of each task. By noon, the equipment shed was cleaner than it had been in months. By 1500 hours, the tool inventory was updated and organized. By 1600 hours, she'd reorganized the entire rope storage system using a method that cut access time by 40%. The supply sergeant had watched her work, finally spoke up. "Sergeant Torres, I've been managing this shed for 3 years. How did you know that storage method?" "Read it in a manual once, Sergeant." "What manual?" "Supply chain optimization, special operations logistics." "We don't have that manual." "I know, Sergeant." The supply sergeant stared at her, then shook his head. "You're wasted on general labor, Sergeant Torres." "Maybe, Sergeant, but orders are orders." "Yeah," he paused. "For what it's worth, I think Vance is full of it. Everyone in logistics knows you're the best comms tech we've had in years. Whatever he's got against you, it's personal, not professional." "I appreciate that, Sergeant. You need anything, you let me know." "Will do, Sergeant." At 1700 hours, Colonel Hayes made an unexpected appearance at the equipment shed. Louisa stood at attention. "At ease, Sergeant." Hayes looked around at the immaculate organization. "I see you've been productive." "Yes, sir." "I also see you've been set up for failure, and you're refusing to fail." Louisa said nothing. Hayes stepped closer, lowered his voice. "I received the security audit results on your communications equipment. No violations, no unauthorized access. Everything clean. Whoever reported you filed a false complaint." Will the equipment be returned, sir? Tomorrow morning, along with a formal note in your file clearing you of any wrongdoing. Hayes paused. But that's not why I'm here. I need to ask you something directly, and I need an honest answer. Sir, you're letting Major Vance bury you. You're not fighting back. You're not defending yourself. Why? Louisa met his eyes. Because defense implies guilt, sir. I'm not guilty, so I'm just waiting. For what? For the truth to become unavoidable, sir. Hayes studied her. You sound very confident that will happen. I am, sir. Based on what? Experience, sir. Hayes wanted to push further, wanted to demand answers, but something in Louisa's expression, calm, certain, patient, stopped him. She wasn't being stubborn. She wasn't being naive. She was executing a plan, and whatever that plan was, it required him to trust her. All right, Sergeant, I'll trust your judgment, for now. But if this escalates to the point where I have to intervene, I will, understood? Understood, sir. Hayes left. Louisa returned to work. One more hour until end of day. One more hour of menial labor. Then she could return to her quarters, brief preparation for tomorrow. Sleep. The routine didn't bother her. She'd endured worse, far worse. At 1800 hours, she secured the equipment shed and headed across the yard toward the barracks. The sun sat low, painting everything gold and red. Most personnel had cleared out already. Dinner, downtime, whatever people did when they weren't on duty. She walked alone. Halfway across the yard, a voice called out, "Torres!" She turned. Cole approached from the direction of the command building, 2 other officers with him. His expression was hard, angry. "Sergeant Torres, I just received your security audit results." "Yes, sir." "Clean across the board, no violations." "Yes, sir." "Which means someone filed a false report." Cole's voice rose. "Which means either you're very good at hiding evidence or someone is trying to sabotage my command by making me look incompetent." Louisa kept her voice level. "I wouldn't know about that, sir." "Wouldn't you?" Cole took 3 steps closer. They were alone now in the middle of the yard, his 2 companions hanging back. "Because it seems convenient that every time I try to hold you accountable, somehow the evidence disappears or the charges don't stick. Makes me wonder if you've got friends in high places running interference." "I don't have friends in high places, sir." "Then how do you explain it?" "I follow regulations, sir. I do my job, that's all." Cole's jaw clenched. "You know what I think? I think you're hiding something. I think there's something in your past you don't want people to know. And I think eventually I'm going to find out what it is." "If you say so, sir." "What do you think is on that tape Cole dismissed? The one Louisa left on the table? Drop your guess in the comments below. Trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next." For just a moment, something flickered in Cole's eyes. Recognition? Uncertainty? It passed too quickly to identify. Then he stepped back. "Dismissed, Sergeant." Louisa saluted, turned, walked away. Behind her, she heard one of Cole's companions speak. Low, but not low enough. "Sir, maybe you should let this go. She's not worth the trouble." Cole's response, "It's not about worth, it's about standards. And if I let her slide, what message does that send?" Their voices faded as distance grew. Louisa kept walking. Her face remained calm. But inside, in the quiet place where old memories lived, something stirred. A question she'd asked herself 8 years ago during a firefight in Yemen while guiding a young SEAL operator through an IED disposal that should have killed him. Will he remember the voice that saved him, or just the victory that followed? She'd learned the answer that night. People remember what they want to remember. They forget the inconvenient parts, the parts that don't fit their story. But recordings don't forget. Archives don't forget. And eventually the truth becomes too loud to ignore. She reached her quarters, locked the door, sat on her bunk, pulled out that old challenge coin and held it to the light one more time. On the back, worn almost smooth, was an inscription. 3 words. She traced them with her fingertip. Voice over sight. The motto of Class 0. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Cole wasn't done. He'd escalate again. Probably push for her removal from the unit entirely. And she'd let him. Because every escalation brought him closer to the moment when someone, maybe Rourke, maybe Nash, maybe even Hayes, would make a connection he couldn't dismiss. The tape was still out there. Nash had it. She'd seen him pocket it during the briefing. Smart kid, curious, the type who didn't let mysteries sit unsolved. He'd figure it out eventually, maybe even tonight. And when he did, when he brought that tape to the right person and pressed play, everything would change. Not because she'd defended herself, not because she'd fought back, but because the truth, once recorded, is patient. It can wait years, decades. It doesn't need defenders, it just needs someone willing to listen. Louisa lay back on her bunk, closed her eyes, started breathing. 444, the rhythm that had carried her through firefights and failures, through losses and long nights. The rhythm that reminded her, calm wins, patience wins. And somewhere in the command building, in a locked office, Colonel Hayes sat at his desk staring at a message on his classified terminal. It had arrived 20 minutes ago. Subject line, Sergeant Torres, personnel inquiry. The message was brief. Colonel Hayes, your inquiry regarding Sergeant Torres's service gap has been noted. Be advised that all records pertaining to Class 0 training program remain classified above your current level. However, in light of recent events, you are authorized to know the following. Sergeant Torres holds authentication under Protocol 47. Should that protocol be invoked, immediate verification and operational support are required per standing order. No further information can be provided at this time. Trust the process. Trust the operator. JSOC Personnel Command. Hayes read it 3 times. Then he locked his terminal and sat back in his chair, staring at nothing. Protocol 47. He'd never heard of it. But JSOC didn't send messages like that lightly, and they especially didn't tell colonels to trust the process, unless something significant was happening below the surface. He thought about Louisa's calm, her patience, her absolute certainty that things would resolve. She wasn't waiting for rescue, she was waiting for revelation. And apparently, so was he. The night settled over the base. Stars came out. The temperature dropped. In barracks across the yard, personnel slept or didn't, prepared for tomorrow or didn't, thought about their lives or didn't. Louisa lay in the dark, eyes open now, watching shadows move across her ceiling. Somewhere in this base was a recording of her voice from 8 years ago. Somewhere was a young operator who'd survived because she'd talked him through hell. And tomorrow, or the day after that, those 2 things would meet. She just had to stay patient a little longer. The recording would speak for her. It always did. Nash didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. The pieces were there, scattered across his desk in his locked quarters. Printouts, notes, the cassette tape sitting in the center like an accusation. He'd spent 4 hours cross-referencing coordinates, pulling archived mission reports through back channels, calling in every favor he had left from his intelligence days. The picture emerging was impossible, and yet every verified fact pointed to the same conclusion. At 0230 hours, he made a decision, grabbed the tape, grabbed his documentation, and walked across the silent base toward Colonel Hayes's office. Security lights cast long shadows. His boots on concrete sounded too loud in the stillness. Hayes's light was on. Nash had gambled on that. Colonels didn't sleep much during crisis weeks, and this week had been nothing but crisis. He knocked. 3 sharp raps. Enter. Hayes sat behind his desk, still in uniform despite the hour, reading something on his terminal. He looked up as Nash stepped inside. Lieutenant, it's 0230. Yes, sir, I know, but I need to show you something about Sergeant Torres. Hayes's expression sharpened. Close the door. Nash did. Set the cassette tape on the desk between them. Sir, I need you to listen to this, and then I need to show you what I found. Hayes picked up the tape, examined the label. Class 0, Protocol 47. He looked at Nash. Where did you get this? Sergeant Torres left it on the equipment table yesterday morning, after Major Vance ordered her to remove her uniform. I retrieved it. Why? Because I recognized the coordinates on the label, sir. Yemen, 8 years ago. I cross-referenced them with archived operations reports. Nash pulled out a folder. There was an incident, IED ambush, 6 operators killed, 12 wounded. 1 operator, a SEAL lieutenant at the time, survived because someone talked him through a bomb disposal over radio. Voice only, no visual. That operator credited an anonymous instructor for saving his life and the lives of 4 others in his squad. Hayes's hands stilled. What was the operator's name? Lieutenant Cole Vance, sir. The silence stretched thin and sharp as wire. Hayes set down the tape. You're telling me Sergeant Torres was the voice that saved Vance's life? I'm telling you she was one of the Class 0 instructors, sir. An experimental program that trained operators using voice-only guidance to eliminate bias. All instructor identities were classified. Students never saw faces, never knew names, just voices guiding them through the worst situations imaginable. Nash paused. Cole Vance was trained by Louisa Torres. He just doesn't know it because he never saw her. He only heard her. Hayes leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes for 3 seconds. When he opened them, his expression had changed, harder, colder. And you can prove this? The tape, sir. I haven't listened to it yet. I thought you should hear it first. Hayes stood, walked to a cabinet, pulled out an old cassette player, the kind intelligence units kept for reviewing field recordings. He inserted the tape, looked at Nash. If this is what you think it is, everything changes. You ready for that? Yes, sir. Hayes pressed play. Static. Then a voice. Female. Calm. Absolutely steady, despite background noise. Explosions. Shouting. Chaos. Cole Vance, grid 4-7, eyes up, posture straight. If you freeze again, you're dead. A younger male voice, panicked, breathing hard. I can't, there's too many wires, I don't know which. The female voice, cutting through. Yes, you do, I trained you for this. 3 color sequence. What's the order? Red, blue, yellow. Wrong, you're panicking. Reset, 4-4-4 breathing. Do it now. Sounds of breathing, slowing, steadying. Good. Now tell me what you see. 3 wires, red, blue, yellow, but there's a 4th, it's hidden under the casing. That's the trap, ignore it. The primary sequence is always visible. Trust your training. Which wire? A long pause, breathing, then, red. You sure? Yes. Then cut it. 3, 2, 1. Now. A click. Silence. Then Cole's voice, shaking. It's done. It's disarmed. Good work. Now get your squad out of there. Extraction is 300 meters north. Move. Who are you? What's your name? The female voice, already fainter. Radio cutting out. Names don't matter, Lieutenant. Competence does. Stay alive, that's an order. Static. Silence. Hayes stopped the tape, looked at Nash. Neither man spoke for a long moment. Finally, Hayes said, That's her voice. Yes, sir. And that's Vance. Yes, sir. 8 years younger. Before he became major, before he built his reputation. Nash hesitated. Sir, there's more. I pulled his service record, the full classified version. His rapid promotion after Yemen was based on exceptional combat leadership under fire. The official report says he single-handedly disarmed an IED and saved his squad. But the after-action review, buried in attachments nobody reads, mentions remote technical guidance from undisclosed source. That source was Torres. Hayes sat down slowly. So Vance built his career on her competence, and now he's trying to destroy her because he doesn't recognize the person who saved his life. It's worse than that, sir. I found evidence someone deleted the original mission audio logs, the ones that would have proven Torres was the instructor on that op. Someone scrubbed them from the archives 6 months after the incident. Who? I don't know yet, sir, but whoever did it had high-level access, and if I had to guess... Nash met Hayes' eyes. Vance would have had motive. If people knew his big, heroic moment came from following instructions, it changes the narrative, makes him look less like a hero, more like someone who was good at listening. Hayes stood again, paced to the window. Outside, the base slept in darkness. Morning formation was 5 hours away. He had 5 hours to decide how to handle this. He thought about Louisa's patience, her certainty. She'd known this moment would come, had been waiting for it. Lieutenant Nash, I want you to pull together every piece of documentation you have. Every cross-reference, every archived report, every piece of evidence. I want it ready for presentation at 0800 hours. Sir, that only gives me 5 hours. Then you better work fast. Hayes turned. Because at 0800 hours, I'm calling an emergency assembly. And Major Vance is going to hear that tape in front of the entire unit. Nash felt his pulse quicken. Sir, with respect, that's going to be explosive. I know, but Sergeant Torres has earned her vindication, and if I do this quietly, it gets buried. Politics, paperwork, classified nonsense, no. This needs to be public, transparent. Everyone who watched her get humiliated gets to watch her get vindicated. Hayes' voice went hard. And everyone who participated in that humiliation gets to feel what it's like to be wrong in front of their peers. Yes, sir. Dismissed. And, Lieutenant, good work. This took courage. Nash nodded. Left. Walked back across the base with documentation clutched to his chest and adrenaline singing in his veins. 5 hours to build an airtight case. 5 hours to make sure Cole Vance couldn't squirm out of this. He could do 5 hours. At 0745 hours, personnel assembled in the main briefing hall. Unusual time, unusual summons. Everyone required, no exceptions. The room filled with confused murmurs, speculation. Cole stood near the front, arms crossed, looking irritated at the disruption to his training schedule. Louisa entered last, found her spot in the back corner. Same position as always. She caught Nash's eye across the room. He gave her the smallest nod. She returned it. Understanding passed between them without words. At exactly 0800 hours, Colonel Hayes entered. The room snapped to attention. "Seats," Hayes said. Everyone sat. He walked to the front, deliberate, carrying a folder and the old cassette player. Set them both on the table. The tape was already inside. "We're here because a serious matter has come to my attention. A matter involving integrity, accuracy of service records, and the treatment of personnel within this unit." Hayes's voice carried authority that brooked no interruption. "I'm going to play you a recording. It's 8 years old. It was made during a classified operation in Yemen. Some of you were there. Most of you weren't, but all of you need to hear it." He pressed play. The voice filled the room. Calm, steady, guiding someone through hell. Then Cole's voice. Younger, panicked, desperate. The disarmament sequence. The life-saving instructions. The room went silent. Every eye turned toward Cole. His face had gone pale. Recognition dawning like a slow horror. The tape ended. Hayes stopped it. Let the silence hold for 10 seconds. 20, 30. Then he spoke. "The voice you just heard, the instructor voice, belongs to Sergeant Louisa Torres." Gasps. Whispers. Heads turning toward the back corner where Louisa stood, expression unchanged, breathing steady. Hayes continued. "Sergeant Torres was part of a classified training program called Class 0. Instructors taught through voice only, no visual contact. The purpose was to eliminate bias and prove that competence transcends all other factors. She trained 12 operators. One of them was Lieutenant Cole Vance, who is now Major Cole Vance." Hayes looked directly at Cole. "The IED incident that earned you a commendation and accelerated promotion. The moment that defined your career. You survived it because Sergeant Torres talked you through it step by step. You just didn't know it was her because you never saw her face. You only heard her voice." Cole stood frozen. His mouth opened, closed. No words came out. Rourke, sitting in the third row, let out a low whistle. Holy cow! The pieces he'd been trying to place suddenly locked together. The breathing, the grip, the absolute calm under pressure. She'd trained for that, trained others for that. Nash stood from his seat. "Colonel, if I may, I have additional evidence." Hayes nodded. Nash moved to the front, opened his folder. Major Vance's service record lists the Yemen incident as independent tactical leadership. But the original after-action report, which I retrieved from classified archives, specifically mentions remote guidance from Class 0 instructor. That report was filed by Major Vance's commanding officer at the time. He pulled out a document, held it up. Furthermore, mission audio logs that would have corroborated this were deleted from the database 6 months after the incident. Deleted by someone with command-level access. Nash paused. "I haven't yet identified who, but the deletion occurred during the same month Major Vance received his promotion board review. The implication hung in the air like smoke." Cole found his voice. I never deleted anything. I'm not accusing you of that, Major, yet." Hayes stepped forward. "But I am stripping you of training command effective immediately pending a full investigation. You will surrender all personnel files, all training records, and all communication logs to Lieutenant Nash within the hour." Cole's face flushed. "Sir, with respect..." "There is no respect, Major. You spent the last week systematically trying to destroy the career of the woman who saved your life. Whether through ignorance or malice, the result is the same." Hayes's voice could have cut steel. "You ordered her to remove her uniform. You called her competence into question. You humiliated her in front of this unit. And you did it to someone who earned more valor in one 30-minute radio call than most of us will in entire careers." The room had gone from silent to suffocating. No one moved. No one breathed. Hayes turned to Louisa. "Sergeant Torres, front and center." Louisa walked forward. Every eye tracked her. She moved with that same measured calm, reached the front, stood at attention. Hayes faced her. Slowly, deliberately, he raised his hand in salute. "Commander Torres, Protocol 47 acknowledged. This unit owes you a debt it can never repay, and on behalf of everyone here, I apologize for allowing you to be treated with anything less than the respect and recognition you deserve." For the first time since the confrontation began, Louisa's expression shifted. Not much, just a softening around the eyes. She returned the salute. "Thank you, Colonel. You're dismissed from general labor effective immediately. I'm offering you reinstatement as lead communications instructor with full authority over technical training protocols. Hayes paused. I'm also recommending you for formal recognition of your Class 0 service, classification status permitting. Louisa met his eyes. I appreciate that, Colonel, but I need to explain something first about why I stayed silent. The room leaned forward. Even Cole, still standing shell-shocked near the front, turned to listen. Louisa took a breath, spoke clearly, calmly, letting her words carry to every corner of the room. Rank Null, Class 0, was designed to remove bias. No face, no name, just voice and competence. I trained 12 operators under that protocol. Major Vance was one of them. He earned his rank through my guidance, but he forgot where he came from. She paused. I stayed silent because the system needed to prove itself. Would it protect truth? Or bury it when truth became inconvenient? Now we know. I didn't need to defend myself. The records did. Her voice remained steady. No anger, no triumph. Just facts delivered with surgical precision. Protocol Null isn't about me. It's about integrity surviving ego. Major Vance's mistake wasn't forgetting my voice. It was forgetting what it taught him, that respect isn't given by rank. It's earned by character, competence over volume, substance over appearance. She looked directly at Cole. You survived Yemen because you listened. You suffered here because you stopped listening. The lesson hasn't changed, only the consequences. The room remained frozen. Then Rourke stood, saluted. One by one, others followed. 30 people standing, hands raised, acknowledging what should have been acknowledged a week ago. Cole stood alone, not saluting, just staring at Louisa like he was seeing her, truly seeing her for the first time. Finally he spoke. His voice came out rough. I didn't know. I know, Louisa said quietly. If I had known, would it have mattered, or would you have found another reason? She didn't wait for an answer. The question you should be asking isn't whether you knew. It's whether you should have needed to know, whether someone's value depends on their secret credentials, or whether it should be visible in how they work, how they act, how they treat others. Cole had no response to that. Justice doesn't need to be loud. If this story proves that truth and integrity matter, share it. Let's make accountability viral. Hayes spoke into the silence. Major Vance, you're dismissed to quarters pending investigation. Lieutenant Nash, you're assigned as acting training commander until further notice. Everyone else, this briefing is classified. Nothing discussed here leaves this room without my explicit authorization. Understood? A chorus of yes, sir echoed back. Dismissed. The room emptied slowly. Personnel filed out. Voices hushed, minds reeling. Nash approached Louisa. Sergeant? Or Commander? I don't actually know what to call you. Louisa is fine, Lieutenant. Louisa. Nash extended his hand. She shook it. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen. You could have fought back at any point. You had the ammunition, but you waited, let the system expose itself. The system needed testing, Louisa said. Now we know where the cracks are. What happens next? That depends on what we find. Louisa's expression shifted slightly, more serious. Someone deleted those audio logs. Someone wanted my role buried. We need to know who and why. Nash nodded. I've got forensics access. Give me 48 hours. You have 45 minutes. Nash blinked. What? Louisa pulled out her phone, showed him a message. Timestamp 0753, sender unknown. Archive purge initiated. Complete erasure in 46 minutes. Ghost. Nash's blood went cold. Someone knows we're onto them. And they're trying to destroy evidence before it can be formally recovered. Louisa looked at Hayes, who was still gathering papers. Colonel, we have a problem. Hayes read the message. His jaw set. Lieutenant, how fast can you pull server backups? Depends on authorization level. You have my authorization. Highest level, pull everything related to Yemen operations from 8 years ago. Audio, video, documentation, metadata. Pull it now and lock it down. Nash ran. Literally ran from the briefing room toward the IT center. Hayes turned to Louisa. You knew this would happen. I suspected, sir. Someone's been covering tracks for 8 years. They wouldn't stop now. Who? Someone close to Major Vance. Someone with both motive and access. Louisa pulled out the challenge coin from her pocket, held it to the light. This coin has a serial number. It's registered to Class 0 program. Only 12 were issued. 11 are accounted for. 1 went missing after Yemen. She met Hayes's eyes. I think whoever has the 12th coin is our saboteur. Hayes stared at the coin. You're telling me someone stole classified military currency? I'm telling you someone took a trophy. and trophies lead back to their owners. 20 minutes later, Nash burst back into Hayes's office where Louisa and the colonel had relocated. I got it. I pulled everything. But you need to see this. He opened his laptop, pulled up a file directory. The deletion command came from an IP address inside the space, specifically from the office of Executive Officer Captain Derek Morrison. Hayes's expression went dark. Morrison. Coles XO. Yes, sir. And there's more. I found the original deletion from 8 years ago. Same user profile. Morrison was assigned to Yemen as administrative support. Low rank at the time, but he had archive access for after-action report compilation. Why would Morrison protect Vance? Louisa spoke quietly. Because Morrison's career is tied to Vance's. If Vance falls, Morrison loses his sponsor. Everything he's built collapses with it. Nash pulled up another file. I dug into Morrison's record, 3 promotions in 5 years, all recommended by Vance. That's unusually fast. And each promotion came after Morrison handled something sensitive, an investigation, a complaint, a personnel issue. He's been cleaning up problems for Vance for years. Hayes reached for his phone. Security, this is Colonel Hayes. I need Captain Derek Morrison detained immediately. Office arrest, no communications, move now. He hung up, looked at Louisa. How did you know? I didn't, not for certain. But when someone tries this hard to erase you, they usually leave a shadow. You just have to know where to look. 30 minutes later, Morrison sat in an interrogation room. Hayes, Louisa, and Nash faced him across a metal table. The evidence was laid out, printouts, logs, timestamps. Morrison's face had gone from defiant to resigned in the span of 15 minutes. Why? Hayes asked simply. Morrison looked at Vance's empty chair. The major had been ordered to remain in quarters during questioning. Because Cole deserved his career. He worked for it, bled for it, and if people knew he needed help, needed a woman's voice in his ear to survive, it would have destroyed him. The culture, the perception, I was protecting him. By erasing someone else's service, Louisa said quietly. You were classified, anonymous. It wouldn't have affected you. Except it did, because when Cole didn't know who saved him, he couldn't respect the person behind the voice. And when he saw me, just a sergeant, just a woman, he saw someone beneath him, someone disposable. Louisa leaned forward. You didn't protect him, Captain. You set him up to fail the most important test of all, recognizing value regardless of packaging. Morrison had no answer. Hayes spoke, voice cold. Captain Morrison, you are hereby relieved of all duties pending formal court-martial for destruction of military records, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to defraud service recognition. You will be escorted to the brig within the hour. Security entered. Morrison stood. As he was let out, he looked back at Louisa. I thought I was doing the right thing. That's what everyone thinks, she said, right up until the moment they realized they weren't. The door closed. The room fell silent. Nash broke it. What happens to Vance? Hayes sighed. Formal investigation, likely demotion and reassignment. He didn't delete the files, but he benefited from it. And his conduct this past week shows serious judgment failures. He's done here. And the Class 0 program? Hayes looked at Louisa. That's above my level. But I'm going to recommend it be reopened, with proper oversight this time. Louisa shook her head. It proved what it needed to prove, Colonel. Competence can be divorced from bias. But humans can't. Not completely. The program served its purpose. Maybe it's time to let it rest. You don't want recognition? I want what we achieve to matter. Recognition is secondary. Hayes studied her. You're a better person than most, Commander. I'm just patient, Colonel. There's a difference. That evening, formal announcements went out. Morrison's arrest, Vance's suspension, Louisa's reinstatement and commendation. The unit absorbed the shockwave in stages. Disbelief, anger, shame, respect. Conversations happened in corners, in barracks, over meals. Some defended Vance, most didn't. A few approached Louisa with apologies. She accepted them without ceremony. At 1900 hours, she sat alone in the DFAC eating dinner. Rourke sat down across from her. That voice on the tape, he said. I knew I recognized something. The breathing, the calm. It was your command voice. The one people follow into hell because it doesn't flinch. Thank you, Master Chief. You could have told me. Would you have believed me without proof? Rourke considered that. Probably not, which is exactly your point. Exactly. He stood to leave. Paused. For what it's worth, you're the best instructor I've seen in 38 years. Voice or face doesn't matter. Some people just have it. Some people just practice more, Master Chief. He laughed, walked away, shaking his head. Nash found her an hour later outside her quarters. Hey, I wanted to say thanks for trusting me with that tape, for letting me help. You chose to help, Lieutenant. That was all you. Still, it mattered. He hesitated. Hayes offered me permanent training command position. I turned it down, recommended you instead. Louisa raised an eyebrow. I already declined, Lieutenant. I know, he told me, but I wanted you to know someone tried. Nash smiled. What will you do now? My job, Lieutenant, same as always. He nodded. Started to leave, then turned back. One more thing. That message. Ghost. The one that tipped us off about the deletion. That wasn't Morrison. I checked. Different encryption signature. Louise's expression didn't change. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Which means someone else knew what was happening. Someone with high-level access and a reason to want you vindicated. Nash met her eyes. You have friends in high places, don't you? You just didn't want to use them. Good night, Lieutenant. He left smiling. Louisa entered her quarters, locked the door, sat on her bunk, pulled out her phone and opened an encrypted message app. One new message, sent 20 minutes ago. Protocol null, Phase 2, 7 candidates, 0 failures. Briefing 0600, location to follow. Welcome back, Ghost. JSOC command. She stared at it for a long time. Phase 2. They wanted to restart the program, train a new generation, and they wanted her to lead it. She thought about Coleman Vance, now facing the ruins of a career built on someone else's competence. About Morrison, who'd chosen loyalty over truth. About Nash, who'd chosen truth despite the cost. About systems that worked and systems that failed and the thin line between them. Then she typed a single word. Confirmed. Sent it. Set down her phone. The program wasn't dead. It had just been waiting. Like her. Patient. Ready. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new operators to train, new voices to guide through hell. But tonight, she could rest. The truth had done its work. Justice hadn't been loud. It had been patient. And in the end, that had been enough. She lay back on her bunk, closed her eyes, began breathing. 444. The rhythm that never failed. The rhythm that would carry her through whatever came next. Outside, the bass settled into night rhythms. Lights dimmed, voices faded. Stars emerged overhead, cold and clear and endless. And somewhere in a classified facility 3,000 miles away, 7 new files were opened. 7 new candidates selected. 7 new voices waiting to be trained by someone who understood that competence doesn't need a face, only a standard, and the patience to uphold it. Justice isn't loud. It's patient, and it never forgets.